You say this company, Boeing, is headed for an existential threat. What can be done at this point? It seems like every day there's some other story that comes out that really either puts further into question the company's board, the company's management, and even its own, safety regulators within the company.
No, I think that's actually right, Melissa. Analysts have been reassuring us that this can't be a long-term threat to the company. I'd like to believe that myself. I have faith in the management, which has underperformed here. I think the board has underperformed, and I think we have a lot of regulatory issues. But analysts have been reassured, and I think I probably have some holdings of this company. So I've been rooting for them. But the reality is there's some real danger signs out. There's a loss of credibility on many fronts. And people say, well, there's no alternative. That's been the investors' reassurance that they have I guess it's the Airbus, filled with 2300 Neon, I think is the plane, in terms of mid-sized efficiency. But we saw in April, no orders came through, none. I mean, last year, I think we had about 30 orders came in April for this plane, a very popular plane. We've maybe 32 of them or so, or not even, were sold in the whole first 2 quarters of the year so far. Is that this is a problem? We have credibility with regulators. Passengers are wondering now if it's Boeing, we won't be going.
Sure.
Yeah, so there was.
Phil, I want to bring you back in because Jeff brings up a good point in terms of the no orders. I mean, it's understandable that no orders they're not making the planes right now at this point in time. Either they stopped down production, but
they're not delivering. They're still building them. They're just not delivering.
Thank you for correcting me. But there's that Barclays downgrade from I don't know when, last month or so, when they surveyed more than 1,700 flyers, I think it was, and a big percentage said that they would not go on a 730. They would wait a year after it's back in service in order to get back on a 730. Are we to the point where we should be concerned about that pipeline?
Well, I think you're asking a couple of different questions there, Melissa. Should there be concern about the pipeline? Absolutely. Having said that, if you are an airline and there is increasing demand, I mean, worldwide, there's so much growth and so much demand for air travel that from the airline's perspective, they've got to meet that. So what do you do if you do not? Do you walk away from your 737 MAX order? I mean, that sounds good right now. Your customers say, yeah, walk away from it. Don't go back to the MAX. What are you going to do in the meantime? Because your competitors who may have the A320neo, they're going to keep adding flights, and they're going to keep grabbing market share. So now you're sitting there saying, well, wait a second, what am I supposed to do here? That's the conundrum for the airlines. And with regard to the other point you brought up in terms of whether or not people will get on these planes, the expectation in the industry is that there will be a huge backlash, potentially initially, but over time, people will say, well, yeah, well, they certified it, they approved it, it's been flying, and okay, I'll get on it.
I mean, I brought up the two hand in hand, Phil, because, the thinking is that if enough customers say, well, I'm not going to go on, then airlines might actually say, I can't buy a plane that customers are not going to feel safe on and will start to boycott. But Jeff, back to you, if Phil brings up a good point, it's hard to switch at this point. So is this really an existential threat if they're not going to lose business ultimately, or not going to lose much business because there isn't an alternative?
It's hard to switch. But to have that in your hip pocket, if people aren't going to get in the planes, they're not going to fly them empty either. So what we've got to do is to see how management has been working very hard in individual private meetings, as Dennis Muilenburg has not gone on camera and certainly a lot, and not done open Q&As with the media. But he has been meeting privately with a lot of major air carriers. But we still don't see the orders coming through. You're wondering, why isn't there some Ken Feinberg-type great problem solver brought in to deal with the liability issue? We certainly we're looking at estimates, I don't know, $2 billion or so to make everybody happy in terms of the lost, at least not in terms of the victims' families, but the lost flights. There's something could be done on that. There's some rumors that Norwegian Air and British Air have some deal going. The other air carriers are wondering about that. So there are things that could be addressed to reassure the air carriers. I think today's meeting, in addition to the grandstanding that Phil is so right, there will be some, but this is such a bipartisan concern on safety that I really do think that we're going to hear some questions come up about, and I think Secretary Elaine Chao has done a very good job now of pushing the FAA to make sure that we have at least 9 other major international regulators working with the FAA, because they won't be the gold standard alone anymore. And they can tell us a lot about going forward, how are they going to get this cleared. People were expecting the MCAS system will be clear at the end of this month, as Phil would tell us. I don't know how likely that really is going to be, and that planes will take off in July, maybe. But right now we want to see what's the process, and Southwest Airlines is mad. How come our system, our MCAS system, was non-functional for a year and a half? We paid for it. Nobody's asking that question. That should come out today.
Sure.
How come we didn't know it wasn't working, and why one sensor and not two, and all the rest?
Right. Lots of questions for this subcommittee today.